Hey, I'm Alicia, your non-monogamous relationship coach. Welcome to the podcast where my friends and I chat about our relationships, enthusiastic non-monogamy, polyamory, swinging, kink, and our lives. You'll get a candid peek into what makes it worth it to live life outside the box. And in case you're still wondering, nope, we're not monogamous. Hey. Do you ever find yourself yearning for a relationship filled with heartfelt connection and authentic communication? You know, the kind where you can just be you. Well, today's guest is about to reveal the keys to unlocking that kind of relationship magic. Our guest today is Deana Tanner. She's the driving force, showrunner, and in-house expert behind the Healthy Humaning Institute. She's a firm believer that healthy humaning, which is crucial for every kind of relationship, is especially beneficial in the realm of polyamory and non-monogamy. And speaking of polyamory, Deanna is currently living her best polyamorous life with a sizable blended family, 7 humans, 3 pets, all under one roof, along with an expansive network of friends, partners, and chosen family. So we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of cultivating trust, creating a space for open conversations, and finding emotional fulfillment and true intimacy. It's all about keeping it real and making connections that matter. Quick heads up. Our podcast is fueled by the awesome support of our Patreon crew. So if you're loving these episodes and you want to get even closer to the nope, we're not monogamous vibe, consider joining our Patreon family. You'll get access to cool extras, behind the scenes stuff. You'll be helping us keep these awesome conversations coming your way. So just head over to patreon.com/notmonogamous and be a part of our fantastic Patreon family. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, enough of that. Let's hear this awesome conversation with Deanna. Enjoy. Yay. Okay, hi. Uh Deanna, it's Deanna, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
like you spent
Okay,
the
good.
day on a farm.
Deanna Farm. I love that. Um okay, so you were on the show in 2021, episode 16. So if anybody wants to go
Mhm.
and listen to that, you can go and listen to that. Um and that was like 2 years ago. It's a long ass
2
time
years,
ago,
2 businesses, a whole bunch of stuff.
right? I love that. Um, okay, first I have to ask you the questions I ask everyone. So that they can get a feel for the listeners can get a feel for what you've got going on.
Alright, I'm down for it.
Awesome, perfect. Okay, so can you tell us what your relationship to relationships is? What's your romantic style?
Well, I'm polyamorous, so there's that. Um, and I do, like, just exist style polyamory, like, everybody does their own thing however it works for them, and there's no prescriptions or whatever. And
Just
I currently have
exist. I love that.
I currently have 2 live-in partners, plus I also live with my sister-in-law, and I am not quite ready to take on another partner, but I have decided that she has to have season 19 Grey's Anatomy, Addison Montgomery energy. Like, that's the person I'm looking for. So
Oh
when
my
I
god, that's
find it,
amazing.
I know what I'm looking for.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So,
There's
but
nothing like
yes.
asking the universe for a very specific thing.
I mean, I will take Kate Walsh too if she's available and into
Fair.
polyamory. But like
Fair.
that's the energy I'm going for.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Um, have you always been polyamorous?
Yes and no. Yes, in that for
I get that
me,
answer a lot.
it is evidently an intrinsic part of who I am. I did not have the words to put to it for a very long time, but I distinctly remember when I was like 11 years old, I told my best friend, "Oh my God, I have a crush on this other kid too." And she was like, "You are always in love with so many people and you need to stop." You need to just pick one. And I was like so upset by that because, first of all, I'm not cheating on anybody. First of all, I'm 11 years old. So, even if I were dating, we're talking hand holding and walks in the woods. Like, but also, like, that just felt so unfair to me. And I couldn't have told you why. But, like, you can't help how you feel. It's just there. So I stopped telling her I was in love with people. And the next time it happened again, I said, I'm in really, 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 really deep like.
Oh, I've been there a lot.
Oh, me too. I'm just
Mm.
recovering from another one. It's fine.
Aw,
It's okay. It's all good.
I love that. So, like, it's funny as you're saying that. I remember when I was in seventh grade, like before I had even kissed a boy, I had like all of these crushes, and I had a friend who was like, "Stop it, make up your mind, quit being so slutty." And I'm like, I
Hmm.
haven't like kissed anyone. How am I being slutty?
Yes. Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
like my first kiss was the guy cheating on my one of my really good friends. So like non-consensual, by the way, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody talked about that back then. But like nobody was saying anything to him about it.
Right?
Like, hello.
What's up with that?
I don't have
And how
feelings
much of
about
that
that,
do we
not at
carry
all.
into adulthood?
Right?
Yeah.
No feelings there. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Not carrying a grudge at all for
Mm-mm, no.
decades. That's amazing.
We've
Okay,
worked through
so
that.
right. So you have multiple live-in partners, and have you I know the answer to this. And if you go back and listen to episode 16, you'll learn the answer to this. But have you always been non-monogamous with those partners? I mean, was there one first?
So it's really funny because I was really wondering if I was going to know the answer to this before you asked the question.
Do I know?
I was seriously panicking for a second. Oh no, what if I don't remember what I said?
Pop quiz time. I need to add that segment.
You did not tell me this was part of the arrangement. I didn't study. Um, so when my husband and I got married, we just celebrated our 12th anniversary. I'm so excited.
Congratulations.
Um, we had talked prior. So I'll just do like a quick recap of
All right, cool.
so I was a single mom working two full-time jobs and going to school full-time. And so when I met my husband, after about 2 weeks, I was like, okay, cool, I can see this going somewhere. But I was like, so by the way, I don't have time to invest like 6 months or a year into this relationship and then find out it's not going to work. So here, have a list of everything that you might one day hate about me, and like tell me now if we have a shot here. And so we talked for a couple hours, and one of the things that I included on there was that I was bisexual, and I was like, not saying that I have to act on it or whatever, but like I grew up Catholic, and a lot of people are not even okay with that, like being said out loud. So, like, tell me now if that fits for you, because this really isn't going to work. And he was like, oh, well, I don't I'm not really bothered by you hooking up with another woman. And I was like, but you don't get to watch or participate. Like that's not how we play this game. And he was like, oh no, like no, thank you. That doesn't even sound appealing. I was like, oh, really? This is fascinating. And then shortly after we got married, um, well, actually, funny thing is, my first girlfriend messaged me the night before my wedding after like 2 years of not talking. And so that was we got to put the did you really mean that to the test very early on.
Uh-huh.
And then after a few months I was like, hey, so there's some things that you're not comfortable with that I really kind of miss. And what do you think about me talking to my old friend who I used to enjoy those things with? And he was like, Okay. And so, like,
Huh.
we've always been some version of open, but we didn't actually like intentionally delve into polyamory until 2016 or 17. I can't remember which. I think it was 17, but I could be wrong there. So we said we were poly in theory in
Uh-huh.
the interim time.
I love that so much. I love giving people an idea of, like, every time I have a guest on, I want the listeners to have an idea of, like, how people get there, because every single story is unique and every single journey is its own thing and with its own nuance and, like, little things that come up, right? Because people think like, okay, how do I do this? How do I open my relationship, or how do I be polyamorous, or how do I become non-monogamous? Like, well, what are the opportunities in front of you and how are you going to talk about them?
I mean, that's basically all it boils down to. My only thing is if somebody's come talk to me and they haven't said anything to any current partners that they have, I always ask them, can you be okay if you say this thing out loud and then your partner just like can't even handle the fact that you said it out loud? Kind of like me being bisexual. Like,
Mhm.
some people are like, yeah, so I'm not okay with that, but thank you for letting me know that that's how you feel about that. And other people are like, okay, you have said this thing, it is unforgivable, and now we're over with. And like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
totally. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, actually. Like, the idea that if you think about this thing, then you've betrayed me, or then you're a bad person, or you've broken some boundary. And I'm like, there's no such thing as thought crimes. Like, you haven't committed the crime. You haven't done a thing wrong. You've thought about a thing. And for some reason, we've, as monogamous culture especially, has like equated that to like, how could you possibly ever let the idea of doing something outside of our boundaries ever cross your mind? Or how could you ever think about another person? Or how could you ever sexually desire another person? Like, what the fuck? We're human. We think about all sorts of shit.
but it's in the movies and the music. That's where we get it from.
Yeah.
Like, I, that is where a lot of our problems come from. And like, I totally understand that that is art imitating life, so it also originated in life somewhere, but that's how it perpetuated and got stuck the way it is. And, like, one of my partners, um, had been thinking about non-monogamy for a couple of years and didn't wanna say anything to their spouse because they were afraid their spouse was gonna fall into that category of, "Oh my god, you've said this thing and now we can never be together again." And their spouse, for the exact same amount of time, had been thinking the same thing, not saying something because they were afraid it was going to be a, I can't believe you said this. We can't be together anymore.
Right?
And I'm like, sometimes it's worth taking a chance.
Yeah. 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 I always try to remind people, like, you should be able to talk about concepts, ideas, theories, fantasies, without it meaning that now you're changing your relationship or going to go do the thing. Like, talk about it, play with the ideas. It can be a no, like, absolutely not, but that doesn't mean it has to be like, now everything is ruined.
And my question is, if your partner comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about this thing," and you decide that they have them having that thought is a deal breaker, how much do you just not trust your partner to begin with? Like, how much energy are you expending ruminating on all of the ways that they might or are possibly cheating on you in ways that most of us wouldn't even consider? Like, how much of your energy is going towards that? Because if you think saying, "Hey, I had this thought," or "I've been thinking about this," or "Hey, I heard about this from a friend," and that automatically equates to cheating for you, you are expending a lot of energy in a way of like, and don't get me wrong, I understand that it comes from a place of trying to protect yourself, but you're not actually protecting yourself from anything. All you are doing is exhausting yourself, like, 100% of the time. So like, If you can't trust your partner to say something to you and be like, no, that doesn't work for me, and being like, okay, cool. So, like, thanks for hearing me out. And I'm glad we had this conversation. And then that's just it. Why are you with them?
Right? Right? That's
Either
always
you
my
trust your partner
question.
or you don't. Like, there's only two ways that plays out. Either you trust them or you don't. And if you don't trust them, why are you with them?
Right? Right? I hear a lot of people say like, "Well, I don't trust them in these situations." So if we just maintain structure that doesn't allow them to go into a situation where I wouldn't trust them, then we'll be fine. I'm like, "Really? That's the relationship you want?"
Okay, but also this comes up in parenting a lot too. This is one of the examples I go into with parenting. If you say you can't do this thing because I will have these feelings, I will feel this way about it, I will see it as cheating or whatever. And if you do these things, this bad thing is going to happen, and they choose not to do the thing just to avoid the bad thing, they still have the same amount of autonomy. They are just choosing not to have the consequence, the threat that you have given them. You have no more control over that than if they were to just do the thing that you're like, no, cool, I'm not okay with this. I'm not cool with this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the amount of control you have is the same, and it's zero across the board.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. Parenting. I love that. Excellent segue. I get a lot of
Yes.
questions about parenting children as a non-monogamous parent, like multiple partners, dating, uh-huh, and having children. And what about the kids?
Have you seen my essay? Have you seen my essay?
I don't
We're in a
know.
lot of the same circles. So, we're in a lot of the same groups and circles and stuff. So, just as much as I do how often it comes up of,
All the time.
I don't I don't want to introduce my kids to any of our partners. It's too soon. We need to protect them. We can't have it. I don't want their hearts to get broken, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Totally understand where this fear comes from. It's all part of your conditioning. It's all part of your caregivers not taking care of you when you were younger, but that doesn't mean that's the answer for now. And so I have a whole essay that I have written on the topic that I post on an almost weekly basis in various chat rooms and forums because the question comes up so frequently. And it is a hill that I will die on, like 100%.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Remember, I
Yep.
said I was going to get dramatic about healthy humaning? This is one of those dramatic things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Same. Um, okay. You're gonna send me the link for that essay, right?
mhm.
Cool.
Yes, I
Yeah, I'll
am.
I'll post that in the show notes. Okay, so I imagine your answer to that is very similar to my answer to that.
Probably pretty close. Yeah, I would guess.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
So who's giving an answer first? You or me?
Yeah.
Okay. My
Ah,
answer is, if I can't trust my partner to keep our kids safe, then I don't need to be with my partner. Anything other than that, it's their choice. And it is my job, and it is my partner's jobs as parents to give the kids the coping skills and tools that they need to learn how to handle heartbreak, because the heartbreak is coming, polyamory or not. The heartbreak happened the first time you took your 2-year-old to the playground and they made their new best friend that they couldn't wait to see every single day and they were so excited about, and they never saw him again. That heartbreak already left the station.
yep. 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 Exactly. And my thing that I always say is like we have so many people that are in our lives infrequently. The cousins that we see on holidays, they can't wait to see their best friend cousin that they haven't seen in a year, right? Or, teachers. They have a teacher for 9 months and then they're gone. Like they have the
Mhm.
people that come into their lives and then leave all the time. They've experienced it over and over. And it's like we've taken the idea that a romantic partner will have more meaning to a child, but they are romantically involved with them. They don't have more meaning. It's not.
Exactly.
They are we're putting that meaning on it, and we do it because of monogamous conditioning that a romantic partner automatically is supposed to equal a parent or a step parent or a parent stand-in. But
And
we
a
have
lifetime
friends.
commitment.
Yeah, we have friends that we hang out with that our kids know. They don't see them as their step parent. My best friend since I was 12 years old, my kids aren't thinking like, "Oh, that's our other mom. I hope she never leaves us."
Right. And I had a best friend from the age of 5. We were friends for 25 years. We're not friends anymore. Do you think they met my kids? Do you think my kids grew attached to them? Yes, absolutely. But what happened was when I realized that the relationship was toxic and I needed to walk away for my own sake and my own benefit, I had no coping skills. My
Yeah,
parents modeled for me that once you met someone, you were friends for life, and that was it. There was no cutting people off. There was no evaluating whether or not it was a healthy connection. There was no either people moved away or you were friends for life. And like, yes, I
mhm,
kind of get the idea behind that, and I can see how it would be nice, but also if it's not a healthy connection, then why? And so
yeah,
it literally nearly killed me because I had no coping skills. I didn't know what to do. This was the biggest loss of my entire life. And suddenly here I am with the biggest hole I've ever experienced in my life. And I don't even have anything to hold on to. I've got nothing. And it
mhm,
almost killed me.
yeah, yeah. There's a like, had you had those experiences as a child, you would have been more resilient when that came up.
Hmm.
Yeah,
100%. And that's why it's important to give your kids those skills. And my very last paragraph of this essay addresses that is like, if you are not giving your kids these skills, if you are just throwing them from person to person and ripping them away, then you're not ready for polyamory anyway. So like
mhm,
it that makes it a moot point.
yeah, 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 absolutely,
No, I don't
absolutely.
have strong feelings on this at all.
Yeah. I'm thinking of so there's polyamory and you're dating someone for a couple of months or something and they come around your kids, fine, great. I get a lot of questions from people who are like non-monogamous, but like maybe they're swingers or maybe they have an open relationship and they're like, I don't want my children to have any idea about this. So I lie to them and tell them I'm doing something completely different on the weekend when I'm going to go do a thing that wouldn't be appropriate to tell them about, but like there's almost like no like middle ground. Like I'm going to hang out with a group of like okay, I went to a hotel takeover a couple months ago. No, last month. Um, and my kids are like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to Canada. I'm going to go spend the weekend with a whole bunch of adults doing adult things." Like totally fine. But there's lots of people who are like, "Oh yeah, we told our kids we were going to on a just the two of us were going to a completely different place than we were actually going." Like it seems really weird to me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I and that's where like you get to teach your kids how to have boundaries and how to have privacy
Right.
because your kids deserve those things too. Your kids deserve boundaries and privacy. And then you get to model for them. Oh, so yeah, I'm going to go do this thing. And like you can share the location of where you're going. You don't need to lie about that. That just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Um, but you can say, I'm not comfortable sharing, or I don't want to share what I'm doing. It's private, it's
Mhm.
personal. I'm not interested in discussing it. Whatever the truth that feels best for you without having to lie to your kids. Because
Yeah.
what happens when they figure it out? Because how many people think that their kids are never going to figure it out and then get blindsided?
When their kids are like, "Oh yeah, I've always known that." We were Christmas shopping last weekend and there was like a magnet or something. God, what did it say? It said something about being what was it? Something about being straight or something about being monogamous. God, I don't remember. But my 13-year-olds looked at me and was like, "Ha, that's not you with a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and a husband." I absolutely loved it because she's just like, they don't care. The kids don't care.
Mhm. No, so when we first got into our first polyamorous connection, um, my husband and I had 2 kids, and then the people that we started with a quad, but it wasn't like s- romantic or sexual in both every direction. There
Sure.
was a platonic leg of it. Um, but there were 3 kids between us, which are now part of my blended family. We all live together. And we just didn't say anything. Like we didn't try to hide it, but we didn't say anything. And from the kids that I gave birth to and raised from birth, we had always normalized adults being behind closed doors
Yeah.
because when I was growing up, a closed door meant one thing and one thing only. And I was like, I don't want that to be the case for my kids. Plus, also, it's really nice to be able to talk to my friends without having a kid coming up every 7 seconds going, Mommy, 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 Mommy. Like, I would like to be able to complete an entire sentence, maybe even have a whole conversation. And being behind closed doors allowed that for me. And
Yeah.
so my kids never thought twice about any adult being behind closed doors with any other adult. It didn't matter who they were or what the relationship was or their gender identity. Like, none of that mattered. It was just sometimes adults need privacy and sometimes adults are behind closed doors together. That's just all it is. And for my now oldest kid, that wasn't necessarily the case, and they weren't even used to closed doors because their house operated differently. So that was a fun learning curve. But it was like a couple months later before they were like, so why do you go out with her husband but not your her, because she's your friend? Like, why are you and so that was the opportunity to say, okay, so here's polyamory, here's what it is, here's what it means, this is why we are making this choice. And then it was like, oh, okay. And then
That's a good answer.
when
That solves it.
exactly. And then my youngest, like 2 or 3 years in, was like, why do you kiss dad's girlfriend? And I was like, well, because she's my girlfriend too. And that was it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep, that's a lot of, like, conversations that we've had as well. I love that idea of adults behind closed doors. That's, like, just simplifies it all so much.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves privacy. Everybody deserves to be able to have conversations. Not every bit of information is open for everybody else. And so you achieve that privacy by closing the door.
It sounds really obvious, and I feel like so many people are like, "You can do that?"
Because
What?
it that goes into a whole nother thing of like patriarchy and misogyny and sexism and gender roles and all that stuff. But like, we were raised to believe that our kids have to have access to us 24/7. And if we
Mhm,
shut off any kind of access and we have any kind of boundaries, then we are the most horriblest humans ever. But that's a
mhm.
whole another story.
There's a lot. There's a lot. Uh,
It's so much.
um, okay, so you've had a lot of experience, being polyamorous, managing multiple relationships, raising children. I imagine that that has impacted your um, communication skills. Tell me more about healthy humaning.
Okay, so when I was here last time, 2 years ago, they were the pillars of polyamory. And it turns
Mm,
out, because my business back then was practical polyamory, because that was the niche that I wanted to serve. And it felt so constricting and so constraining because everything I was talking about had to just deal with being a better human in general and not just polyamory. So I was like, okay, let me step back a second. And so I rebranded to queeramory because I wanted to serve queer and polyamorous humans because I kept running into that intersection a lot. And again, I kept just going back to human. This is healthy humaning. This is, how you are supposed to exist as a human in the world with other humans. And so I rebranded again as healthy humaning. And now, instead of those pillars that we started with, they're the exact same thing. Um, I have now turned them into, it turns out they had this nice little acronym within them that I just didn't see for the first 18 months, is brace. So I created the brace method. And so it's got two pieces to it. There's the initial underpinning components, which are those five pillars that we talked about before. And I call them the underpinning because when you're in construction, if your foundation is not solid and they have to reinforce it, that's called an underpinning. And
Mm.
the way I describe it to people is your lived experience up until this point, right now, is your foundation. For better, for worse, there's no going back and changing it. There's no undoing it. There's no ripping it out and making it fresh. Your foundation is already there. So, what we do is we take these components of brace, boundaries, personal responsibility, autonomy, communication, and emotional intelligence, and we put in underpinning. They become the underpinning of your foundation. And once you have that foundation set, then you can use those things to build more on top of your foundation so that you can create a better lived experience for yourself. You can create a structure for your life that feels really good, holds everything that you want it to hold, keeps you safe and protected, keeps the people you love safe and protected. And you can just build and build and build as much as you want. There's no limit because you have this solid structure in place.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me
So then
again what
this
those were.
um, brace, boundaries, responsibility, personal responsibility, autonomy, communication, and emotional intelligence.
Mm, I love that so much.
I know, isn't it
It's so
amazing?
good. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
So then the other part of the brace method is the framework. And I used the acronym brace again, but I have to actually read it. I have it on my wall because my brain just doesn't want to memorize something that big, which is why I created, for all of your listeners, if they want it, a handy dandy little PDF thing. Um, so the other brace is breaking down the struggle to identify the components involved, reconciling your old behaviors and beliefs with the result that you want,
Mhm.
applying the tools, skills, and knowledge necessary to meet your end goal, so where you want to be, clarifying your needs, wants, and values in order to set your priorities, and then engaging in the behaviors and conversations needed to create and co-create change.
Yeah. That's it. That's the thing that we need.
Exactly.
Monogamy, non-monogamy, parenting, like, yeah, just life skills
It's
that
healthy humaning all in one little PDF.
yeah. Yeah. They should teach this in school.
do you, do you remember that, or did you not know that?
No.
That's how I had it branded at first. The shit you should have learned in school.
Really?
Yes.
It really is though.
Hmm.
It
But then
really
somebody came to me and was like, "Hey, so I just heard from a friend of mine who was checking out your site. It feels a little bit victim blamey. Like you should have learned this. You should have known this." And so I
Mm,
walked it back and I said, "This is the stuff that they should have taught you in school. This is the shit they should have taught in school,
yeah.
so that you can know that." But I thought you knew that, so I thought that's why you said that. That's just a cute little coincidence, then.
Yeah, no, it's like it really is like what we because, so many people are raised in homes where people where the parents or the caretakers don't have those skills, right? And so we just keep having generations upon generations who don't have the skills to have healthy relationships and to manage their emotions or like there for almost I would say for everybody there's some piece missing.
Hmm. 100%. And that's why it is healthy humaning. It is the whole
Yeah.
human experience. It is everything that you need in the barest forms in order to have a better lived experience. And
Mhm.
yes, there is nuance and there is layer after layer after layer. Like We can go wide and we can go deep with this. But if you want to boil it down to the bare basic essentials, that's what it is. Brace. That's what you need.
Yeah. 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 I love it. Thank you. I'll put the link for excuse me, I'll put the link for your PDF in the show notes.
Yay. I have it all over my house because it's me. But I recommend that you put a copy of it on your fridge. So when
Mhm.
you're struggling, like with your spouse or with your kids, or trying to noodling over a problem with a coworker, a friend, or a parent, you can go look at it and be like, okay, what am I missing here? What feels like it's either missing or is being overstepped or we're butting heads on, like, let me see which piece it is, and then we can like work it out from there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna print one out for my kids. I'll just have it around somewhere where they might see it.
Bathrooms work really
Yep.
well. Laminate it, put it in the bathroom.
Mhm. Mhm.
I might have done that a couple times next to the fridge because they're always standing there looking for food constantly.
Always. Always. Gosh, all the time.
I literally came home with $1,500 worth of Costco, and I heard two of my kids say, "There's nothing to eat."
Uh-huh. Yep. Been there.
Oh, I love you so much.
Or right now it's the fridge full of Thanksgiving leftovers. Well, it was a couple of days ago. And there's nothing to eat.
Hmm.
Guys, we cooked a whole turkey and a whole ham. Like, come on. I promise you there's food in there.
It's not the path of least resistance. I know.
Nope.
I hear you there, but like it's there.
But I'll have to remove it from this container. It's
And
not
my
even
boy,
cooking.
okay, now it sounds like you're talking to me because I am the one who says that's too much work,
I mean, me too. But come on, my kids are supposed to be better than me.
right? We taught them how to be better. That's what we do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, hmm, if there is there anything, if you could go back and do things differently, is there anything you would do differently?
I would start this a lot sooner, like 100%. Because my husband and I went from met to married in 5 months
Mhm.
to the day.
Mhm.
And I thought I had dealt with all of my trauma
You
and that
did
I
not.
was now, and I had a background in leadership education. I had been doing leadership education since I was 11. So I thought I was good to go. And
Don't we
he
all?
he grew up in an idyllic home. Like there was no fighting, there was no arguing, there was no conflict or anything. Like he got to just exist and just be. Well, it turns out that can give you your own kind of trauma. Did not know that. And
Yep.
so um I thought I had this really great marriage, and if I go back and look at it, at some of the things that I wrote, and like, oh my god, my Facebook posts, when vague posting was all the rage,
Mhm.
my marriage was not healthy from the beginning. And I was like, hmm, hot damn, how did we survive this? And so I would have done it sooner. That's the only thing that I would change, is I would have done it sooner. But
Yeah.
that's why I like healthy humaning for what it is, because part of the definition, I had to make my own definition for healthy humaning because I kind of coined it as a whole thing. But the last part of it includes um, doing what you are currently capable of. It is literally meeting yourself where you are at and learning more tools and skills and knowledge and information where you are now. And we're not going to worry about perfection. We're going to go for progress. We're not going to worry about perfection. We're going good, better, best. We want to start working on the boundaries and the choices and doing the little bits of communication better that we can, and recognizing our feelings and emotions when they're happening before we spew them all over the floor.
Mhm.
And like taking back our autonomy, because the way we were raised basically taught us we aren't autonomous. We have nothing. Somebody else is always pulling the strings for us, and that's supposed to stay that way. But really, it's not. It's just until somebody tells you different, you don't know any better.
Yeah. 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 Totally. That's one of the things I've been seeing a lot more. A lot more people have been coming to me that aren't in crisis, that are like, we're doing this thing that doesn't look like what our parents did or what our friends are doing, right? Like some version of non-monogamy. And we want to do it right from the beginning. And we don't know what we don't know. So we need guidance, we need support. And it makes me so damn happy to see people looking for that support, looking for like, how can we do things better before they're actually like in crisis and everything has exploded and they're like just trying to salvage something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
100%. That is why my number one advice to people who come to me interested in non monogamy, but who haven't actually started yet, 6 months of intentional personal growth as an individual and as a couple before you get anybody else involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's going to be some bumps and bruises, there's going to be some stuff that hurts. And if you
Inevitably.
take this healthy humaning and you apply it before you start bringing other people in, it's going to be a lot less.
Yep. 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 100%.
And I
uh,
say at least 6 months because it takes practice. You're
hmm.
not gonna you're not gonna get good at it because somebody went, "Oh, that's not healthy. You shouldn't do that that way." That's not the best way to do that. You're not just gonna, "Oh, okay, now I know the perfect way to do it. I've made amends with every single person I've ever done it wrong with. I understand how to have empathy and compassion from the outset. Like all of the obstacles are gone and now I can do this perfectly." That's we're
Right.
not in an I dream genie world.
Yeah. 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 Or like, even like, I read the book, so now I understand why I'm doing things the way I am, but that doesn't equate to like doing things differently. Like I have spent most of my life being very jealous and possessive, and I knew I didn't want to feel that way. I knew I didn't want to behave that way because it didn't serve me in any positive way. So I was doing a lot of work around it, but that didn't stop me from feeling jealous, right?
Mhm.
Like it just, over many years of doing this work, now when I feel jealous, I'm like, "Oh, I know what this sensation is." First of all, I don't go into a panic, like I don't have the full fight, flight, fawn response, right? Like, which I used to. It used to be like adrenaline flooding my body, and now I'm like, "Oh, I'm a little wobbly," and I can look at it and go, "Okay, this exists." I can dig into why. I can hold myself through it and I can regulate myself through it. But like it took lots and lots and lots of practice to get there, not just reading the book and knowing why I felt that way.
Mhm. And that was similar to my experience. So I started with boundaries. That was the first
Yeah.
thing that I changed in my
Oof.
life. And first of all, I was working on boundaries for several years before anybody really came to me. And by anybody, I mean the internet, because that's where all the best stuff happens. But before I found it on the internet, that was like boundaries are about what you do. Boundaries have nothing to do with what other people do. Your boundaries are based on a response to how other people behave, not a controlling what they do. And so I had been working on my boundaries, but I had also been doing it wrong in a lot of ways because there was not that clear cut piece of information. I was missing that one little bit of context that has now reframed everything. And that is how I got to the autonomy piece. And then I had a really solid foundation in communication because of my leadership education experience, but that was in like a professional setting. There
Mm.
was nothing that taught me intrinsically how to translate it to personal relationships. So that was like trial and error and trial and error and trial and error. And so now I've taken all of that and I've put it together. And my goal is to make it as simple as possible for you to start from where you are in whatever thing pops up next, instead of like trying to predict, like, or trying to be like, I want to fix this one issue. just whatever happens next. Okay, let's go look at the thing. Let's look at this, see where the pieces are, see what your priorities are, what you value, what you want it to look like. Okay, so now how do we make a little tweak? And then another little tweak, and then another little tweak, because we also don't want to blow out your nervous system trying to get better either,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
because that's not going to help.
Right. It sounds like so much work, but it's also so freaking rewarding.
And what I like to tell people is that the only reason it sounds like work, the only reason it feels like work is because you didn't learn this in your formative years. If
Mhm.
you had been taught this as you should have from the day that you were born, it would be no different than eating, breathing, drinking, running, smiling. These would just be things that you do. The only reason it feels like work is because you're trying to undo all the unhealthy stuff and relearn all the healthy stuff and get practice in connection with other people who are also just as unhealthy as you are.
Yeah. 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 It's like starting to go to the gym when you haven't been going. It's fucking makes your muscles sore. So your brain is
Mhm.
like sore from weightlifting.
Yes. And also, the reassurance there is that the more you practice healthy humaning, the more it becomes a part of your life that you don't even have to think about, the more brain space you have for other things. Do you know how much my creativity has gone up just since I started like being really intentional about this stuff? I used to say I wasn't a creative person. It turns out my brain was just preoccupied with unhealthy humaning. It was
Yeah.
preoccupied with trying to control people that I had no business trying to control and having
Mm.
feelings all the fucking time because I didn't know how to regulate myself.
Yep. Yep. Like, ah,
I
no,
know.
I
It's
can
like
do
so
more.
nice to just like chill.
Amazing. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share with the listeners?
Well, as soon as we hang up, I'll know like three things right off the bat. So there's
Totally.
that.
Yep.
Um, I think really the biggest thing is like lead with compassion and empathy 100% of the
Mm.
time. And it takes practice too. Like that's its own practice. I get that. And also, the more you can cultivate that, the easier the rest will fall into place. And that applies to you too. Compassion for yourself, empathy for yourself is just as important for you as it is for other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally. Oh, I love that. How can people find you?
My catch-all hub is my website, healthyhumaning.com, but I spend most of my time on Facebook right now is where you can find me doing the most because I can't ever stop. My brain never turns off.
Mhm. Mhm.
All
Mhm.
healthy humaning all the time. But I do have some stuff in the works. Can you be the first? Do you want to be the first to hear about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm working on putting together a learning library of all kinds of topics and stuff. And my number one goal is for it to be accessible. So every single topic in there, every single class, every single video, and everything that corresponds with it, some things have worksheets and stuff, is only going to be $13. I want everybody to have access to this information, like as much as humanly possible. And
Yeah.
so that is the first thing that I'm putting together behind the scenes. I'd like
I
to
love
say
that.
I could tell you when it's going to happen, but it's been trying to happen for like 2 months now. So
It's happening.
when it gets there, it gets there. It's all the perfect timing.
It's
And
gestating.
then exactly. And then the other thing that I'm doing is I'm opening up 3 1-year mentorship spots
Mm.
for all things healthy humaning because I really want to keep working with people one to one, even though I want the information to go far and wide. Um, but I want to work with people who are like deeply committed to it and like really
Mm.
invested and like, okay, I see the potential here and like I want to go after it. And please help me because holy crap, this is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're the
I,
first to know.
I love it. I mean, and it's super related. That's why I started the podcast. It was like, cool. Not ever. I don't have the time or space to work with every single person, but like this information needs to be available for people. So like, here's information.
Exactly.
Go
Oh,
listen, go
yeah.
read, do the things.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, I'm starting a podcast tonight too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Do you
There's
know
that.
do you know what it's going to be called?
So you may have been around for the first time that I tried this. So it's called Show Growth, and it's talking about favorite shows and characters through the lens of healthy humaning, like starting with Grey's Anatomy,
Oh my god,
and
I love
like
this.
if it had been done in a healthy way, here's what it would have looked like, and here's what could have happened instead. And like, okay, when this situation happens, actually, what you can look at instead of going into this response is to kind of see about this. And all of these things. And so I tried it once before and I got 4 episodes in and it was just me and I was so bored that I couldn't even do it anymore
Oh yeah,
because
you got to have
just
someone to
me
talk to.
monologuing, yeah, was too much. But now I have a co-host, and so tonight we are getting things off the ground, and no idea when we'll have our first post, but it's coming soon because we are both like ready yesterday.
I love that. That's going to be so good. That's fantastic. Amazing. Okay, I have one more question. And this one is for my Patreon supporters at patreon.com/non-monogamous. Uh and it's called Just the Tip. And the ask is, what is your favorite or best sex tip? Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I love chatting with you.
Yes, it oh makes me so happy.
And that's a wrap for today's episode with the amazing Deana Tanner. If you enjoyed our conversation and you wanted to hear Deanna's Just the Tip segment, well, you're in luck. That exclusive bonus content is waiting for you over on our Patreon page. It's packed with our guests' favorite or best sex tips that you will not want to miss. So head over to patreon.com/notmonogamous to get in on the fun. And don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode. You'll find all the links to Deanna's fantastic work and more. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep those conversations open, those connections authentic, and most importantly, stay curious. Bye.